Yeah, one of the nice things of having a nice big long bench is that you have room to build more than one model. And that's Project Street Scribbler in the background. And I just posted a video about that. But on the other side is a long-awaited return of the CrankyNation monster truck. I got badly stalled on this build. I was working on this chassis and was just about getting it finished up, and the cat decided to jump up on the bench, which she very rarely does. She doesn't like up on the bench. She doesn't like all the glue smells and everything, but for whatever reason, I'm working on this, she jumps on the bench, immediately is startled, jumps back off, and when she did, she took the entire chassis down with her onto the floor. I got a hard wood floor and pieces scattered in every direction. It actually broke some of the actual molded in pieces. The engine was completely dislodged. I mean, pieces just went every which way. Very disheartening. I just stopped where I was and just crawled around on the floor for a while trying to find every piece that I could. Gathered everything up, put it in the box, and had to just put it aside for a while because, you know, it was just such a major setback. Because at the time the chassis was still pretty fragile. Not everything was completely pinned and glued and good and solid, and I was still aligning the engine, working on the engine, getting the belts and exhaust in and all that, and I mean all that stuff just came loose. I ended up, the hardest part was, you know, going back to look in the box. I mean, I just couldn't even go visualize the carnage for a while, so I did several videos since then on all kind of stuff, and went quite a while without even going back in. But about a little over a month ago, I finally got it back out and got everything kind of back to where it was. The hardest part was getting the engine glued back in and in position. The way I have it, it's sandwiched between some firewalls, but stuff was trapped. I mean, I could barely get the engine back in there. I actually had to cut part of the frame so I could get the engine back up in there. And then when I did, I had to epoxy it. And for some reason, when I did that, when it dried, the engine kind of slumped over a little bit and got out of alignment. So, which screwed up the alignment with the cutout in the bed. So I had to go back in again and tweak the engine block and get that alignment back in there, because I essentially did this cutout after I put the engine in, and then now I'm having to get the engine back to this cutout because there's not a lot of clearance. Not a lot of clearance at all. But I finally got that done. Let me see if I can show where I'm at now. And I've made some progress since. In fact, I'm at the point of where I'm going to start putting things together. I've got most, you know, this is all scratch built, this upper section. I mean, that's completely scratch built. I used parts from some brakes and just various parts out of kits and tubing and whatnot, and created this crazy intake setup. I've also drilled, I've got a hole through there. I've cut butterflies out of some aluminum can. I've got a rod that goes in there, so I'm actually been working on that for a while. You know, I was trying to figure out a cool intake option, and that's what I ended up coming up with. I've got my radiator set up in there now. All my hoses run. Shocks are done with the springs and everything. The engine's all completely in there. The exhaust is just about done. More shocks. The drive axles are in there now, or drive shafts. I've done some bolt detailing, so it's just about completed. I had to get to a point where it's like, okay, enough stuff in there, you know, time to start putting it together, because I think it's pretty well filled out now with, you know, by the time you had the wheels and everything. I got the decals on. I've blacked out this front piece. I ended up, as I said, I was going to do black weather stripping around. I ended up putting in a grate for the back window. Got the, you know, the glass. I've got the black around the black trim around the pieces that need it. Like the little corner windows. It took like 3 tries to get that painted without smearing black around, but I finally got it clean enough. I ended up blacking out the instead of doing the wood grain, I ended up blacking out the inside of the bed, and I'm just going to put in the chrome strips and trim out, you know, paint the trim out. Got the tailgate done. I don't know if I showed where I had put that bare metal foil down before I painted, and then I buffed it out. So that's actually metal lettering on there. Interior's just about done. I've got some lines run, got all my gauges in, got all that done. Steering wheel, parts from different kits, nitrous, fire extinguisher. I just got to do just a little bit more plumbing on that, a little finishing up, and that's pretty well done. The section that holds the fuel cell and the battery, that's all in, wired. The fuel cell's plumbed. Just a few little bits of touch up, and maybe just a little bit of pulling out some detail and stuff on that. That's the part that's up under the front hood, since the engine's in the back. I'm gonna do a bit more graphics because you know, right now all I have essentially is the yellow and black. And it needs just something. I don't want to just put a lot of just decals and stickers all over it. I was wanting to do something a little more with some black graphic or stripes or something. I don't want to turn it into a bumblebee, but something, that's one thing that I just haven't decided yet exactly. You know, but I just want to add a little more to the graphics on it, and maybe a few more decals, but not too much, you know, not a whole lot more to go on that. So basically it's you know, I'm ready to start actually assembling everything now. It was quite a major setback having to repair that chassis. I mean, it broke, pieces went everywhere, and it was really hard to get everything back because it was hard to get to parts at that point. Stuff was trapped inside and hard to glue, and paint was having to be scraped, and it just was really a major ordeal. But that's the reason I got stalled. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I probably would have been finished with this by now, to be honest. So I'm going to be, you know, taking breaks from the Street Scribbler project and finishing this project, because it's basically just getting it all together. The tires, in the process, you know, I dull coated the tires, but in the process I've gotten a little paint on them, and I've, you know, scraped some of the dull coat, and there's some areas that are glossy and shiny. So I ended up cutting some masks to cover the hubs because they're gloss painted, they're done. So when I'm ready to put the tires on for the final time, I'll hit them with one more mist-coated dull coat and assemble those on, and then remove the masks. And other than that, just a few details left that go on the engine, and a few little wires and odds and ends, just finishing up more than anything. So next time you see this, it'll actually be taking shape. And like I said, I'm just going to take small breaks from the Street Scribbler project and be, you know, while parts are drying on this or painted or whatever, you know, overnight or a couple days of drying time, I'll be working on one project and kind of back and forth, and just keeping a good steady pace going. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more progress from Project CrankyNation Monster Truck.